I was getting ready for the Hurricanes game last night, and I saw, I think, a repost of an On3 story saying that Mack Brown had told people within the program that he intends to come back for year 7 at the helm of the University of North Carolina football program, and with the understanding that Mack has been great for the university and all that he has done to repair the relationships with the state of North Carolina high school coaches. And he had 5 years of NFL quarterbacks between Sam Howell and then Drake May, that it really hasn't gone as well in terms of wins and losses, season results, and that it probably is time. And I believe it's time for Mack to turn the program over to somebody else. But in the back of my head, I keep hearing Bomani Jones say, and I've said this how many times on the radio, 20, over the last several weeks, that Mack is not the guy that's going to do it on his own. That, unfortunately, we might have a situation like David Cutcliffe went through at Duke, where it was a mutual, air quotes, parting of ways. Bomani Jones, the Right Time Podcast. My friend, how are you, sir? I keep hearing you're like on this shoulder whenever I start talking about Mack. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I was just telling Victoria, we got brush fires up here, man. We got rain for the first time in literally, yes, there are parks in New York City that have been on fire.
Oh my God.
I tell you, fire. City parks on fire. But, we got some rain. And yes, I told everybody, you're going to have to bleep can him. Because for him to walk under the circumstances as they are is for him to say, I can't do this.
Right.
And that's not something that he is able to say to himself for whatever reason. Like, to do this job, you have to believe in a way that you're the man to do it. And what he doesn't believe is that he's done coaching. So what's he going to do? Leave this and get another job? Probably not. You're going to have to walk him out of the building.
Yeah, that is, it is, and I don't believe Bubba Cunningham wants to do it. I'm not entirely sure that Bubba Cunningham wanted to hire him. The story really is that this was done and set in motion by boosters, that it really wasn't Bubba Cunningham. I mean, I don't know this for a fact. That's just what all the stuff that you hear was, that at the beginning it wasn't a Bubba Cunningham idea, that it was about, the money behind the program. But Bomani Jones is joining us here. So I want you to walk me through the way it came to an end at Texas, because I think it will tell us something, because you can't argue with the first, dozen years, right? He got there, went 9-3, 3 straight years, and then it was an incredible run of double-digit wins. He went 128-25. He won 6 divisions, 2 conference titles, a national championship, and was also a runner-up. But then it kind of fell off. It didn't fall off like off a cliff, although there was one bad year. But he just couldn't get it back to the level that it looked like it deserved, that Texas believes it deserves. How did those last few years go?
Yeah, so the thing to remember about Mack was it was a very similar thing as when he took over the job at North Carolina, in that we got some things to fix. The difference was at Carolina, he was only fixing the ills of one regime, where at Texas, it was really fixing post-integration history, right? Okay. He was the first coach ever to recruit at Texas without race really hanging over anybody's head. Like, it was still a very antiquated program in that regard, really up until the tail end of the Mackovic era and when he got there. And so, yes, you can't argue with the results of the first 12 years, but you can if you really try. But at the same time, a national championship with what was at that time maybe one of the 10 greatest college football teams of all time, and then 4 years later with a different set of players, another trip to the national championship game, and then they went something like 5-7. And after that, were never a credibly good team. They were never after that a legitimate threat to win a division, to win a conference, let alone win a national championship. There were lots of discussions as to why. But in the end, it was clear the time was up. And so at the end, they beat Oklahoma in 2013. And no, Oklahoma blew Mack's doors off a few times.
Yeah.
They beat Oklahoma, and everybody felt like, man, what a perfect way to go in what's going to be your last year, right? Like, this is going to be your last year. You're going out on a win against Oklahoma. you can walk out, right? Like there's nothing left for you to do at this job, right? And so while they're trying to get everything together to fire him, which I also, if I recall that same year, the plan was to hire Saban. And so one side of the operation was trying to line it up with Saban, and depending on what you read, had it set that Saban was ready to come to Texas. But the athletic director had to get Mack out of there. When they were trying to get Mack out of the job, I'd lie to you not, he jumped on a plane and flew to Miami and went to Central High School for Dalvin Cook to watch him practice. The school did not recruit the state of Florida. He was running away from his whooping. He knew what time it was, and he fled. I called somebody at the school and was like, has he ever been there? And the guy was like, not in the 5 years that I've worked here. He ran away from his whooping. He's not going to walk. And honestly, the fact that they haven't fired him already indicates to me that Bubba's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because in this day and age, if you're going to fire the coach, you got to do it now for recruiting purposes, and they haven't done it.
Yeah, they're not going to fire him. It's one of those things, and maybe it's too cordial, and maybe it has a lot to do with why Mack has been good for the University of North Carolina. And like, I'm not even going to pretend that the fan base, the sensibilities here are in any way, shape, or form similar to those dynamics in Texas. We are not sitting here demanding national championships at the University of North Carolina. They would like to be better. They would have liked 5 years of NFL quarterback to have ended in better bowl situations, maybe even a playoff. I mean, the year 2 of Drake May was just comically mediocre at best. But maybe the reason why Mack is good, the grandfatherly way he handles things, the personality, maybe that is the biggest problem that we have going on here.
Well, the Dre Bly, I mean, does it count as an experiment? I'm not exactly sure like how to describe that time, but the idea was you go get us some players and I'll put it to work. Because the thing about the Mack Brown formula is it requires great players, right? Like he's not going to be particularly schematically adventurous. He's got to have great players in order to get it done. The first run at North Carolina, you go back and look at those rosters. It was great players that were getting it done. And I think within the ACC, the thought was, okay, we can get a 10-win season out of this at some point. It hasn't happened. And if it can't happen with the quarterbacks that they had, then you have to ask yourself the question, if you don't have a great quarterback, then what kind of record are we going to be talking about here in this job? And that's not something post Butch Davis, the fans at Carolina really want. They want to be good at football, right? It used to be oh, well, what's the big deal about it? No, they want to be good at football. I could have told you that this dude wasn't going to get it done, but it felt like he had done it before that one time. So why not give it another run? And I think he did the important part. He fixed those relationships with coaches in state, but it's also now a different job than it was then because NIL has changed everything about what exactly it means to build a team. But if you just want to be nice to him because you were good in 1997, you're doing yourself a disservice, man. If you think he's got to go, they got to get him out of there.
I agree. I think that, I'm trying to put it as nicely as I can because, that's where I live. But the truth is that I think he's reached his ceiling here, right? And the results with the two sets of NFL quarterbacks proves that. I mean, the second year of Drake May to just be 8-5 and to look like he just couldn't figure out how to get to the next level. Like, why didn't they have better wide receivers? Tez Walker was a nice wide receiver. He wasn't a great wide receiver.
Right.
He was just nice. And they had to fight, and they didn't do a good job of fighting to get him on the field right away. So they had to be better than that, and the recruiting has been good. I still can't figure out why their defense hasn't just been not good. The defense has been tragically bad under Mack Brown. They haven't had a good defense. You referenced the name. I've talked about this before. Butch Davis was the last coach that brought good defense to North Carolina as the last time. And they were into that until the whiff of the academic scandal, which really, wasn't really about Butch. It was about others, but it became about Butch because that's how it was found out.
Dusting off Gene Chizik, from the television studio and bringing him in, I could have told you that wasn't going to be a great idea.
No.
You got what the dude for Georgia Tech running the defense now. Like, finding defensive coordinators has always been interesting with Mack, because at Texas, you always knew you had all the money in the world. And so when he got Chizik at Texas, that was a big move. That was a good one to have. As the game has evolved, Chizik, anybody could have told you, it's a bad idea for a game that went more to the spread after we watched him play against Ohio State and having linebackers trying to check Anthony Gonzalez in the slot. Like, we could have told you this part was not going to play itself out. I think every program has to look at itself and be honest, right? What kind of program are you? And what I mean by what kind of program are you, like, there's 6-win programs, there's 7-win programs, there's 8-win programs, right? Like, I would say Wake Forest, for example, that's about a 5-win program. You maybe get yourselves into some 7s or maybe some 8s or something like that, but you're a 5-win program. And if somebody consistently wins 5 games, they're doing the job. Now, if what you're saying is you want a coach that can do better than that, totally understandable. Carolina's demonstrated itself to be a 7.5-win program, right? Like, things go reasonably well. That's what you're going to get. What I still don't have the answer for is why it's only a 7.5-win program. Like, of all the programs everywhere that we have called sleeping giants at various points, UCLA is a great example of a program that people would call a sleeping giant. I can explain to you why that giant is still asleep. It's not hard. They got academic restrictions. Right. California's weird on a bunch of stuff. This is the only one of those programs that I have no explanation as to why it is they're not better at football. No one's ever been able to tell me why it is that they're not better. And every time it's happened, like, Butch almost turned that thing around. And after that, people were still like, no, we're not going to actually do the things. I don't know why they can't be better at football.
Here's the other thing about it, because if you look at NFL rosters, and this is not in order, California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia, the number 5 state that produces NFL players is North Carolina. And they have, like, Larry Fedora didn't want to recruit the state. I couldn't figure out. How do you ignore a state that produces, 100 NFL players? How do you not want to recruit that?
And the state that has guys that might actually want to come to your school.
Right, exactly. It's just, like, we lose too many players to Tennessee, to South Carolina, to Clemson. It shouldn't be the case. Let me just move on to one quick thing. Bomani Jones is joining us here, or maybe 2. You are in the heart of New York City, where the brush fires apparently are. And so I know there was a time you flirted with rooting for the Jets. I don't know if that was before or after the acquisition of Aaron Rodgers. So, because I don't monitor New York City sports talk. I don't monitor FAN or ESPN New York. How is this going in the city on the back pages of the Post and the News, assuming they still cover sports, or Newsday? How is this going? Because Rodgers coming back probably is the worst thing that could happen to the Jets.
Yes. Now that I live in this work at home zone, right? Like, I don't really get to be amongst the people like I used to. Because the fascinating thing for me when I was going in the studio every day is all the people working cameras were Jets fans.
Right.
Like, I didn't have any real Giants fans that I could identify there. Like, it was a little bit more like the Long Island Railroad come to work crowd. Like, I didn't realize how many of them were Jets fans.
Right.
And, man, they've been sad, man. Like, the ones I stay in touch with and just catch up with. Because I've been here 7 years. This is my 8th football season since I moved here. There's been one half a damn team that year the Giants went to the playoffs. That's it. And the only thing worse than living in a city with one bad football team is a city with 2. And that's where they are. The worst thing absolutely that can happen to them is Aaron Rodgers coming back. But if you believe the story in The Athletic, Woody Johnson wanted to bench him for Tyrod Taylor. And I'm sorry, you are just not going to convince me that we have come so far with race relations in the world that Robert Wood Johnson IV was going to bench Aaron Rodgers to bring Tyrod Taylor's black ass. There's no way in the world you're going to convince me that was actually the case. Nothing that doesn't work anywhere. I know the Giants wouldn't do it. They made Geno Smith the starter one time, and they let Eli keep his job for 2 more years.
Unbelievable. And the thing is, were you really going to expect Robert Saleh to go to Aaron Rodgers and say, we're going to Tyrod Taylor? I mean, there's no way. There is no chance that story is that Woody Johnson, I'm sure, told that to, I guess, Diana Rossini. I'm sure he told that to her. There's no way that is a true story. I think this is all revisionist history. And if Woody Johnson should just get on a plane, go back, be the ambassador to Ireland, which is what I think he was during the
No. Dan Rooney was Ireland.
Oh,
he
I'm
was
sorry.
the UK. Because remember, he fired Salah after the game in London, and people thought it was because all his British friends were in the box and they lost, and he was embarrassed.
My gosh, that's right. It's right. It is Rooney that was the ambassador to Ireland. All right. Well, at least you got the Knicks. I think the Knicks will be okay, no?
They will be okay, but, man, it's a matter of time before they get to the bottom of the jig of Karl Anthony Towns, because I don't know if you have seen Karl's offensive numbers, but he looks like the greatest offensive big man in the history of basketball. Mm-hmm. And he is giving it right back on the other end, right? Like, it's almost like he got a deal. I score, you score, we all get paid. Like that's, but so they have that. But like the Giants thing now with the craziness of going with Tommy DeVito, the little mascot, to be the quarterback, they made that move. I can't figure out Daniel Jones, come on, man. You guys knew what time it was with that. Y'all was rooting for him, but nobody thought that way. I just can't believe how bad. This city does not get discussed nearly enough for how overall, outside of the Yankees, non-championship level they have been at sports for the last 40 years in everything.
Agreed. Rangers are getting close. I think my Mets actually might have something if they can secure Juan Soto.
Adam.
No, I'm serious.
In June, we will be saying that the Rangers have won one Stanley Cup in 75 years.
I think they're getting close. I didn't say they were going to get over the line. They have some issues with their roster that they're going to have to deal with. But I'm not a Rangers fan. I am a Mets fan. I had a good summer. Yep. Good summer, good fall. So
38 years, by the way, since they won a championship. 38.
I thought we were friends. This is Bomani Jones. The Right Time Podcast is a must. I thank you very much, man. I'll talk to you very soon.
Also, look it up. The Basketball Jones are going to be doing an event at the Rialto Theater January 31st. People, look into it. Come check it out.
Are you serious?
Yes.
At the Rialto?
Yes.
I know the guy who runs that.
Same. In a matter of speaking, he used to work for me.
That is very true. That's awesome. We'll be there.
I appreciate you, man.
You got it. Bomani Jones here on the Adam Gold Show.